Welcome everybody to Dragon Quest FM, where we talk about and obsess over Dragon Quest. I'm Austin,
I'm BJ.
and we are back full blown into 2025 now. We had our first episode of the year last week. So this week we're kind of pivoting back to DQ3 coverage a little bit. Have you found your Switch? I knew you were gonna. I was waiting to ask
Yep.
until we were together, and I assumed that you had not.
No, I have
Um,
not. It's killing me. It's killing you. It's killing me. I
it's
have
killing
not
me,
found my Switch. Yeah.
man.
That it's nuts. Like I've never done this. I've never lost a console before. This is the
And
first
now you
time.
have. Yeah.
It's
Didn't you lose your 3DS a while back?
I don't think I lost it. It's always been in
No.
over on the shelf from one of those boxes. I don't think I lost it. I
Oh,
don't
okay.
remember. Like I know where it's at right now. Uh
Okay,
no,
cool. For some reason I was thinking maybe you had, but I guess not. Anyway, so you may get spoiled on some stuff today.
yeah, I'm sure I will.
Maybe not. Not doing our full blown like in-game stuff, but did want to finally get to talking about like the gathering the orbs and all
Yeah.
of those things. That's, such a big chunk of DQ3, but
Yeah.
also is a pretty, I feel like, I don't want to use the word iconic too much, but this is an iconic game, and that is an iconic thing. Like going around and
Yep.
collecting the orbs. I mean, that's been repeated in other Dragon Quest games and other RPGs. I mean,
Yep.
it's become a very standard kind of like format for, in order to do this, you got to go and collect XYZ before, moving on. And
Yep.
so that is a pretty big chunk of it. So I did want to talk about that a little bit today. Also, for our YouTube viewers, since we want to try to get
Mm.
people watching YouTube or whatever, I have here some plushes right
Nah.
here, and you see? Oh no, I can't
He's.
juggle them because of.
Oh
There
no,
we go.
you can't
There we
juggle.
go.
Yep. He was
The
juggling, guys.
tags, and I'm sitting down. Yeah, so there you go. You
Uh,
can see me juggle stuff sometimes.
that's
Go check
great.
it out.
Uh,
Anyway, so I- before we get into that, though, I do want to address what's maybe the big elephant in the room. Switch 2 reveal. We
yeah.
got that.
It's as people are listening to this, it will have been announced last week.
Hmm.
We're recording this the day of the announcement, so
Hmm.
we're talking about it when it's new. You're talking about it when you're tired of it already. So no, but I'm really excited. Like when you sent me a message this morning, it was there when I woke up, and the Switch 2 is not what I expected to see today. I
Hmm.
didn't know they were getting ready to actually announce it, and so it was a huge surprise that they said anything about it. So you work in it. So what do you know that we don't that you can say? Like, have
Um,
you seen anything like
no,
other than like the reports that I've seen? Like it might be a PS4 as powerful as a PS4 Pro, that kind of thing, or
I don't think I know anything at this point that other people don't. I had gotten wind that it was gonna be dropped at 8 a.m. Eastern time, which is when I start work. So I just came straight on to work and covered the news about
yep,
its reveal because I mean it was so like I'd known it was coming before it happened, so I guess that
yeah,
counts as something that I knew ahead of time. Um, but yeah, I mean and it's still very fresh. I mean this is at the
mhm.
end of the day of the Switch 2 announcement, but yeah, I've seen a lot of like fake leaks today.
Oh, of course. I
Uh,
mean, I can't even imagine
but
how many of those are going around, what people are talking about, especially with the Mario Kart footage at the very end of it.
yeah,
Um, that the leaks that people are going to have. Um,
and there's a full presentation on April 2nd.
mhm.
DQ days in May. I said I thought, DQ 1 and 2
Yeah,
remake would be on the Switch. So coincidence?
seems like it's
Um,
real.
Probably.
Well, it seems like it's really likely, and it does say at
You think
the
so?
end of the it does say that at the end of the video that it's going to be backward compatible,
Yep.
that it's going to play it. So even if they're not optimized for the Switch 2, which they're going to be because the DQ3 is not optimized for the Switch, which might explain some of the performance issues with it, that it'll perform better on the Switch 2.
Yeah,
Uh,
maybe. Huh.
So maybe it'll actually be worthwhile. I mean, it'll be the end of the year ish before it comes out, I'm sure, but I'm excited that it's bigger. Like I don't have the OLED Switch, so all I've got is still the original and a Switch Lite. So the bigger screen that they've announced on this one and bigger Joy Cons is actually pretty awesome.
And the
I don't.
bigger it is, the easier it will be for you to find it when you lose it
It's true. It's true. But the Joy Cons, I actually got excited about seeing the Joy Cons there.
because of the
Uh,
mouse, like using like a
because
being it being used kind of like a mouse.
not even using like a mouse, that you
Yeah.
don't have to fight with them sliding up and down, like pressing the button and pulling them, that you just pull them apart. That it's like a magnetized
Mm,
thing where you slide them in just like straight in on the edge.
yeah.
And it seems like that's going to save a lot of trouble, if nothing else, like quality of life stuff. Like it's not going to make any real difference, but it's going to be so much easier for me just to be able to walk. We keep it behind our TV, so
Yeah.
when we have people over to be able to play something, I don't have to walk over and start fighting and fiddling with it to pull it out or charge. I can just walk over, grab it, and use them however I want. And so that actually is a really nice thing uh, to have them do. And though it worries me about how they might come off that
I started to
when you're
say
playing.
to me, it's just like more things that can break. And also, I know that makes me sound like a grumpy old man, but to me, it's just like more things that can break. And, it's like Joy-Con drift has been such a sticking point, pun intended, for me. I know for a lot of people, but it's been like a major annoyance to
Yeah,
the point that it's really inhibited the amount of Switch stuff I've played the last like year or two, is because it's just like I get really annoyed by the controls.
right.
And and because of the kids, I can't always play it docked. So I mean I have a good controller for when it's docked, but if I want to play in handheld or whatever. And so like I don't know. If it doesn't have drift, that would be awesome. Like
Yeah.
I don't need like okay, it you being like a mouse and it having the magnetized stuff, all that is cool. But if like the left joystick makes my character just run off like this every 5 seconds, like
Yeah.
the current Switch's controllers do, like
Mhm.
I don't care about the other features. Like
Like
maybe just have like the controller equivalent of putting on pants in the morning before you do fancy stuff. And that's Austin's daily rant.
it's and
But
okay, so this is something I've actually never known. It's something I've never really paid. Let me say I've never paid attention to.
okay.
I've only within the last like year had Joy-Con drift. I've been
Oh,
incredibly lucky
yeah,
that
for
it's
real.
only very minor, where it'll mess up some corners when I'm playing Mario Kart with our black controllers,
Yeah.
like black Joy-Cons. So like super duper lucky compared to everybody else out there. I've never experienced drift on any other analog controller out there. Like from the first PlayStation when they introduced the DualShock with Ape Escape, all the way to now, I've never had an analog stick drift like that, because so
Okay.
many of them were like the way they set the default was based on where the stick was when you turned the machine on. And so that was the only time I just reset the machine, did that, made sure it was in neutral. But the Switch is the first one I've ever heard about doing this, really. Is that something I've just
Mm,
missed and been lucky on?
yeah. I will spend the whole episode talking about controllers, but yeah. So the PS5 does it very badly. I've actually gone through two PS5 controllers.
Really?
Yeah, and the reasoning behind it, I read a very interesting tech article about it, is because they have gone to use cheaper suppliers on their
Right.
analog sticks and everything, and so it's a lot more common now. And so what was just a problem with the Switch has now been a problem with the PS5. um, i've
Um,
gone through I've gone through 4 joy-cons, like pairs of joy-cons that have
yeah.
had drift, even sent 3 of those 4 to Nintendo to fix for free back when they did that,
Yep.
and then they have joy-con drift already again, to the point that I just don't buy them anymore. It got time to buy some again in December, and I just bought one of those like third
Yep.
party ones where you can just like slide it straight in. And
Yeah.
it's kind of a headache because you have to charge that thing separate.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was just like, nope, not getting my money anymore. Like this is ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, I
And
don't blame you on that.
like the PS5, I think is definitely less. Um,
Prone to it than the Switch is.
Yeah,
or less intense.
like less widespread, I think,
Yeah.
from what I've seen. But yeah, it's happened to me a couple of times.
Mm.
And so, but yeah, that's the reasoning. Is it's just they're
Mm.
going for cheaper supplies. It's
Oh.
it's a cliche to be like, oh, you don't make them like they used to.
Yeah,
But it's true.
but they actually don't.
Video game controllers are basically doing what the auto industry did in like 2007. Um, and just, cutting corners, cheaper parts. And we all know that that worked out really well for the auto industry.
So great.
Um,
So great.
so, I think at some point, we'll see that turn around, but who
Yeah.
knows?
But yeah, that was something I was actually curious about because I haven't had that issue. Like I've been exceptionally lucky on that one particular thing. And so that's interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the Switch 2 we're excited about. April 2nd is when they're doing the Nintendo Direct. I think you just said April or early April earlier.
April
So
2nd. Yeah.
it's April 2nd, and we will definitely be talking about that. I remember back when the Switch was still called the NX, I was podcasting with Geek to Geek, where we were talking about the Nintendo NX, getting super excited for the launch of the Switch. So I actually feel that way again, talking with you about it instead of Void, where it's like, oh, there's a new Nintendo Switch. And I'm so excited to see
Mhm.
everything that they're going to announce. Like my feet started shaking. I don't know if the camera started moving like that. I got excited and moving my feet back and forth. Um, but yeah, so the Switch will be great. DQ1 and 2 should be on it. And I'm hoping that DQ12 will be on there, like we talked about in the episode last week.
Yeah. So, all right, let's talk about some DQ3 remake
Right,
stuff. You find some orbs. You have to go through and find a whole bunch of orbs. I alluded, I think, to some of this stuff in some other episodes,
right.
but this was one of those things where playing through DQ3 beforehand,
Mm-hmm.
I felt like kind of took away from it a little bit because
I say that.
it was kind of like, oh, I don't need to go to this city to get a hint of where I need to go to find this orb. It was like I just set like the red orb, for example, with the pirates. Like I didn't worry about getting the hints or anything like that. It was just like, nope, sailing, go to the island, ran around the pirates' headquarters, went down into the pit, got the red orb, and was like, cool, I have the orb now.
Which is
And just
interesting to me because they can lock stuff behind those hints that you don't get access to those areas until you have gone through those steps of talking to the right NPCs in the right order. So it's interesting that they actually just let you go grab it. But I guess I mean that's still more DQ3 ish, being open world in tone with it rather than more traditional. I shouldn't say traditional JRPGs, but more likely JRPG progression.
yeah,
But yeah, it surprises me.
and the game, I think the game knows though, that to a certain extent. Like, it also kind of screwed me over at one point. Like I was the blue orb. Okay, like I'm going around. That one's guy's navel, I think. And so you're going around, and I went to the spot where the blue orb used to be, and there's a shimmering blueness in the wall, and I was like, cool, gotta go get the blue orb, and it wouldn't let me. And I was like, well, that's weird because that's where it is.
Yeah.
And so there's another area that used to dead end. And I was like, all right, I'll keep going. And this is kind of annoying because this is the part where every time you go past a statue head, it's like, turn back now, and says things to you. So the game kind of pauses, and then you have to wait for it. And then you can walk again, it pauses, and then it just keeps warning you. And there's like
Hmm.
12 of them, on the path to the other way. And so I finally get there, and the original game had that to a certain
Yeah.
extent, but it was like, you went in there, you picked up the orb, and you were like, haha, I got it. And then you left. And so this one, I was like, okay, weird, So I went, and the blue orb is actually in that different location. So
Uh,
they're already kind of pulling a fast one over on you. But then on top of that, that's when the Chiromancer that I talked about being pretty tough
mhm.
for me, that's where the Chiromancer shows up. And so for me, like I'd gone in there pretty cocky because I was like, I know where it is. I know I'm
Yep.
not going to have this boss fight or anything like that. I'm just going to go in. And then when they changed the location of it, I was like, pretty sneaky, sis. That's, whatever. And kept on going. And then they threw a boss fight at you too. And so I was like
Yeah.
totally not prepared for it or expecting it, I guess I should say.
Right.
And
That's
then
really cool. Like I like it when they throw boss fights at you like that. When it's a new thing where that's when they're like they trick you, yes, but the boss fight actually makes me really happy where they're like, "Oh, you
yeah,
think you're so smart. Like watch this." And like I like it when games tend to do that.
yeah. And so like I got through that and then kind of forgotten about that blue stuff for anybody
Yeah.
listening that's like, but what was the blue stuff? Um so the little shimmery blue stuff that was in the wall, I'd kind of forgotten about it. And like I mentioned in some past episodes, like Platy and I from Slime Time, he and I were playing this and talking about it because we were like two of the very few people in the post game in the world at
Hmm.
that point. And but we're friends and we were talking and texting and stuff about it and trying to figure stuff out. And it was a lot of fun. And anyway, so there's a part where you need Zenithium, and we've been
Hmm.
texting a lot back and forth like, oh, I found this, did you find it? No, I didn't find it. Where is it? You want me to tell you where it is? That kind of stuff.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we're like trading information just like it was like 1996 and we were like on like forums. And so so anyway, we were talking and I was like telling him where maybe like a hammer was or something. I was telling him something and then I was like, yeah, I just can't find the Zenithium. He was like, oh, I found that. Do you want to know where it was? I was like, yes. And so you have to go back to the old man that makes the bomb for you, get him to make
Mm,
you another one, go down there, put the bomb in there, and it blows up, and then that's
yeah.
the Zenithium. That's where you get it.
Uh
And so that was massively helpful because I'd been like going all over like, where's the Zenithium? And at that point, post game, I was like, the sparkling blue stuff was the farthest thing
just
from my mind because I just accepted that it was just like a red herring where they were like
right, yeah.
they it was Dragon Quest being Dragon Quest, and they were like, just for funsies, we're gonna like
Yep.
trick people because they expect it to be the blue orb, and it's not gonna be.
Right.
And so, but it actually does have a use much later in the
Right.
game.
That's awesome.
Um, yeah, so that was kind of nice, I guess, that it actually did have a use. It was a
Yeah.
joke and it was useful, um,
Yeah.
which is kind of like how all the best things in DQ are, right?
It is true. Like that is why we love the series so much is because the jokes and things like that. That turns out to be really serious after you laugh a couple of times. It's like, oh, and like I really do like that, like the tone and everything. It's like everybody knows that. But yeah, that's awesome. Like I like that they've done that.
Yeah, and so. Um, like some of the other orbs, I may not run through every single one of them today, but there's some that are easy, some that are hard.
Yeah.
There's I think I mentioned like the Orochi fight that
Yeah.
I forgot. I don't know why, because I played DQ3 plenty of times. I forgot that you had to fight Orochi twice. And
Oh,
I don't
okay.
I don't know why that was a thing, but whenever I went back, you fight her the first time, and then when you go back and confront her and the queen is like Orochi. Spoiler. She's whenever you do that, I like I don't know. I don't know if my just head wasn't in the game or what, but I totally forgot you had to fight it twice. And then once it started back up, I was like, "Oh yeah, you do." And thankfully took advantage of the autosave feature because I did not
Yeah.
have time for another boss fight. It was like in the morning before work one day. I was just like, don't have time to do this. Um, and then the green orb, which is one that I totally like. I couldn't quite remember. I remembered where most of them were, but
Right.
DQ3 is not a game like last week I was talking about how often I play through DQ1.
Yeah.
DQ3 is not a game like that where it's like DQ1, I could almost run through in my sleep at this point
Yeah.
because of, how often I just boot it up. And what's up?
You said sleep, and it reminded me about your sleep medicine, not medicine, but your sleep magic mind stuff. We'll have to talk about in a
Oh,
second. But yeah,
oh,
did you ever get that? Did your shipment come in like that? So
I
also
did.
the green orb. You said
Okay.
sleep and green orb, and
Yeah.
it reminded me of the sleep.
Yeah, I did. So for people who listened to last week's episode, it was stuck in the snow. We were talking about things being stuck in the snow. Your B-Day present, my
Yep.
magic mind sleep. Um, and I talked about, they're like on the ball with like telling me like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, this is late, but we got it covered. It showed up like the very next day. Yeah. And
Nice.
so we're a little bit when this episode goes live, it's a little bit different. But as of today, I have had it for like 3 days, I
Yeah.
think,
Okay.
in a row at this point. Um, yeah, I legit think it's working. So for people who don't know, we're talking about Magic Mind Sleep right now. Y'all have heard us talk about Magic Mind before. This is Magic Mind Sleep. It's designed not to like give you that boost of energy, but to kind of help you relax and get cozy,
Yeah.
at nighttime and kind of
That's the
free
way
your
Jennifer
brain.
and I say that all the time, by the
Get
way. Like,
cozy.
get cozy. Like the way that you said it. Like,
Yeah,
we
I
do
mean,
that all the time. It's like getting cozy.
yeah, that's how you
And
have to say it.
it is. Like, that's what it is. So I'm glad. It makes me happy that this will help you do that. That
Yeah,
you've actually felt that way with it.
yeah, and so like because my mind does tend to like race at nighttime. I'm plotting out things I should have done during the day, things I need to do tomorrow, thinking about this book I should have written, or this thing I need to do for the podcast, or this thing at work, this thing I need to
Yeah.
take the kids to the next day. I mean, there's just a ton of things going through my mind, like every single night. And so it's not designed to like put you to sleep. It doesn't have melatonin or anything like that in it. It's not designed to make you
Good.
go to sleep, but designed to kind of to make you cozy, to get you relaxed and,
Yeah.
and comfortable. So it's recommended to take it 30 minutes before bedtime. Um, I tend to take it a little bit earlier than
Yeah.
that, and yeah, I really do think it's helped. Like I feel
Yeah.
like I've been like it doesn't put me to sleep, but it kind of helps my brain shut off a little bit. I think it's like there's like chamomile and lavender and things like that in it.
That's actually what I was about to ask. Is it like chamomile tea that where you just feel a little soothed? And I was like
Yeah.
actually going to ask how it compared to drinking chamomile tea before bed.
Yeah,
Uh,
and so there's stuff like that in it that kind of is designed to help you get cozy. And and then, so my brain isn't quite, it's instead of running through like 16 different things, it's like maybe one and that's helping me fall asleep. And
yeah.
so then and then also like the biggest thing I feel like is that like I don't notice it necessarily making me sleepy or anything like that, but actually when I'm asleep, it helps me stay asleep is the biggest thing I've noticed. And so it's like
Right.
I'm not waking up, you know, because my brain suddenly was like, you forgot to do this the next day. It's like helping me, stay
Yeah.
asleep. And so I think that's really been beneficial for people listening to this. You can head over to magicmind.com/dragonjan and actually get 45% off
Dragon
your order.
Jam.
They do a bundle of Magic Mind and Magic Mind Sleep. You get 45% off your order, which is a really good deal. That's at magicmind.com/dragonjan. If you need help remembering it, just picture Jan from the Brady Bunch or Jan from The Office, dressed like a dragon, like for Halloween, and Dragon Jan, and you got it right there.
That's great. Like I'm actually really excited that you said it didn't have melatonin in it because I had to stop taking melatonin. Jennifer takes it almost every night, but I take it like one every like 6 months if I'm having any kind of issue. And I had to stop taking it regularly when I was I did have a little bit of sleep issues for a while. It was last year, and I took it and I started having melatonin nightmares. That
Oh,
that was the worst thing. Like I had heard that was a side effect, and I'd never had it my entire life. And then day after day after day, I would have these just horribly like visceral nightmares that were just so detailed. I couldn't remember a lot when I
hmm.
woke up, but it woke up with that feeling, and I was like, just like my soul had been crushed. And it was like they were in like not night terrors like that, but I was like, I can't deal with this. And I realized I had started taking melatonin before that. So I was like, yeah, melatonin nightmares ain't no joke. And, so not having any kind of hormone in it like that is really cool. Like
Yeah, it
that's
doesn't. So
important to me.
yeah, so you can try this too,
So yeah.
because it does not. Um, So,
So yeah, green orb. Going back to where we
green
were with the
orb.
green orb.
Thank you, thank you. I was like,
From the green
one
drink
or two
back
minutes.
to the green orb. Green orb, green
Yes,
drink, green
yes.
orb.
Well, fun fact: Magic Mind Sleep is actually purple because it's like nighttime. So the
I
daytime,
got nothing then.
the
I'm ruined. The
daytime is
daytime is
green because
green.
of the matcha. Yeah, I
Uh-huh.
assume it's from the matcha. Yeah, but this one's purple and because nighttime.
Well, I got nothing then. I've ruined everything.
But anyway, well, I was still talking about sleep, I think. So green orb, yeah. So that was one where I I couldn't remember that one. I was
Right.
like that one and maybe there
I
was
don't
another one.
know.
I can't
Which
remember. But anyway, the green one, I was like, okay, I know it's somewhere, and I kind of just went to the ghost town, um, like on my own, and I got there at first at night because as we
okay.
talked about in a previous episode, I've been really
Always.
lucky. I show up there at night, I'm able to get the monsters, and
Yep.
then just go to sleep, wake up the next day. It was a great time saver to get to
Yeah.
experience them both during the day and night, and just like from a completionist perspective. But yeah, I did that. Um, just stumbled upon that,
Hmm.
at night. Got that one. The yellow one actually is the one that I have not verified this. So people who played the DQ3 remake, let me know.
Okay.
I think they actually sped this up because hadn't got a chance to touch on this yet, but the the merchant town that you can get where you
Okay.
go and you like bring them, you go and make a merchant, take him to the NPC, and then create whatever you want to name it.
Yeah.
I knew it was going to be his name plus Berg, so I named him Mercho, like because I didn't want to just do merchant, so I named him Mercho. So it's like Mercho Berg, because he's a merchant. I've seen some really funny ones. People have been very hilarious and also vulgar about
Oh
whatever they
yeah.
name their Berg.
Oh yeah.
So you can have a ton of fun with it. I was barely even clever at all. I don't even know if you can
Merchoberg.
count it as clever to just call it Mercho Berg, but I was like, I'm not gonna go basic and just call it Merchant Berg. I'm gonna do like,
Yeah.
Mercho Berg. So he did Merchoberg, and um, so in past renditions of the game, I felt like it was a very set clock for like how long, like you would have to go and stay at an inn and sleep a day
Right.
or a couple of days or
Yep.
whatever, and then come back. With Merchoberg, I felt like all I had to do is if I teleported to a different zoomed to a
Yeah.
different town and then zoomed back, it was
Yeah.
always resetting. So I like sped through it
Oh.
because as you go through, for like people who maybe haven't played yet. For as you go through, the town updates and expands, and there's like a funny story there with the merchant. He helps the town prosper, and then he kind of gets a little corrupt, and they overthrow him, and then he eventually goes back to he's in jail at one point, then he goes back, uh, and gives you the yellow orb at the end of it
Right.
all, and all of this kind of stuff. So but yeah, I think they sped it up for the DQ remake because I was, I didn't, I just took it for granted that it was the same. So like the first time it went there, I was like, oh yeah, yeah, I'm gonna go do other things and I'll come back
Yeah.
to it. Because I remembered it, having to take a little
Of
while, and
course.
I wasn't at the time. It was like I was still collecting other orbs, so it wasn't like a rush to go back to it.
Yeah.
And then I think it was toward the end there. I was just like, you know what? I want to, I think it was like the last orb maybe that I needed. And so I did. I realized that if, as long as I teleported away and then came back,
Hmm.
and I don't remember that being the case in the other versions of DQ3 that I played. Like I remember it being very much like time had to actually pass. Like it was like the day night
Right.
cycle, you had to get through it and then come back at specific times. And this one, that never ran into that at all. I never went to Merchoberg, and it was the same until the very end,
Oh,
of
right.
course. But like as it's making the progress, the
Yeah.
actual progress, like every time I went back, it was always updating
Huh.
and stuff. So I went through it very quickly.
That's awesome. Like that kind of thing is what makes me stop playing games when it's an actual roadblock to the progression. Like I
Mm.
never beat Nino Kuni 2
Because
because
of the town.
because of the town building because I would have had to go back like it stopped the narrative and would make me go back and collect like so many NPCs. Like I had to have so many of them that I had not gotten just playing through the game that it stopped being fun.
Mhm.
And so the game is fantastic. I like it so much better than the first Nino Kuni. And I know that somebody's gonna like skewer me in the
I do
comments,
too. No,
but
I like it better than the first one too. I think the first, don't get me wrong, I think the first one is fantastic. One of my favorite
yeah,
PS3 games, one of my favorite RPGs, but I really did. Two resonated with me more.
yeah, I really like too. But it was that community building, and I know it was the same thing. I think for you was Xenoblade, the
Golden Country.
Golden Country, the community building there is really the town building, I guess, is really frustrating because it blocks the narrative. And this one, being sped up, doesn't seem like it's going to be that kind of problem because
Yeah,
you can go
and
do other things too.
it was never even originally like it was never a problem because it's like you have other orbs to be finding, and it's
Right,
not like you have to go like in those other the examples that you use there. It's like you have to go and like actually do side quests to advance it and stuff like that.
right,
And this isn't that. It's like once you go make your merchant, drop him off there,
right.
and then and everything, it's just a matter of remembering to zoom back and visit there. So it's not like it's not like it requires a whole lot of those extra steps like Ni
Yeah,
no Kuni or Xenoblade did, or like Dark Cloud back on PS2 had the
man.
town that you had to do. Um, is it Suikoden? Suikoden 2, I think. It's been a while now since I
I've
played it. That had town building, right?
I've been mad at those since the 90s, and so I don't know.
Okay.
It deleted my 199% save of Castlevania
That'll
Symphony of
do
the
it.
Night, and so I'm like, oh yeah, 20 years later, 30 years later, I don't know how time works. I'm still not played one. 25 maybe, yeah. It's I'm still mad. Not gonna
Oh,
do it.
okay.
Um,
Yeah, there's quite a few RPGs that have those kind of town
yeah,
building
there are.
mechanics, and I tend to like it.
I
Um,
like them until they get to the where they're until they're roadblocks.
yeah,
Like I will take place in it and I'll have fun with it until it makes me not have fun with the game itself. Like you said, there are quests, side quests and stuff that you have to do that become tedious.
yeah,
Uh
and I
in the others.
and and I totally agree with you. Like I love that stuff because I tend to be a completionist with games, so I
Right.
do it anyway. So I don't have too much of a problem with it. But I can also see that, like, agree with you that like a lot of that stuff feels like it should be optional,
Mm-hmm.
and when it's
Even to a
not,
certain point. Like if it's
yeah,
the stuff that you can do through the story, like zooming back and forth like that to do it seems fine. Like I don't see any reason why that's not the kind of thing because it's a progressing the story as you go along. But it's there's always something about having to retrace your steps and go back, find quests from people that you may have never talked to, just to recruit them to get in your town to hit an arbitrary number of civilians or types of NPCs or something. It gets frustrating to me because you can't go fight the big bad until you have a baker who's lived there for 30 days. It's like, I don't, this is silly and not fun.
and that's BJ's rant for the day. We
It's
both
true. That
ranted.
is, we both ranted. But
So I
yeah,
know
so
I know we're almost running out of time, but for those of you who are listening, be sure to tell us about your own experiences with hunting through and finding all the orbs.
yeah.
Tell me if I'm right or if I'm wrong, or how wrong I am about the yellow orb and Merchoberg, or
Merchoberg,
whatever you called it.
we want to know your names.
I was about to
We
say,
want to
tell us
know
your
your town
names.
names.
Yeah, so tell us your names. If they're not too vulgar, I would like to try to read some on here, um, because there's been some really clever ones. So share it with us, and we'll try to read it on next week's episode or a future episode.
Yeah, you
And
can leave
also
a
and some of these
comment.
other comments as well. Yeah,
Yeah. Be sure to leave a comment on Spotify. We can do them there or on YouTube. And we'll read them there. And our new Blue Sky handle is at dragonquest.fm. No Blue Sky Social or anything like that, just dragonquest.fm. So leave us a message there as well so we can know your town name. So that yours would be like, mine would be Buttberg. Like that's what it is. It when I get there, that merchant's name is going to be Butt or Butt Merchant, and it's going to be Butt Merchantberg.
yeah,
That's just the naming convention Jennifer and I use on things. Her farm on Stardew Valley is Butt Farm. All of her animals are like Butt Chicken and Butt Cow, and like so I've continued that, and so DQ3 is going to be no different when I find my Switch.
And for those who don't know, BJ and his wife are both adults in their 40s.
It's true. I turned 42 last
They
week.
are they are not 7 years old. That's all I will say about
No,
that.
surprisingly not.
But anyway, yeah. So definitely let us know, and we'll try to read some of those on next week's podcast because that would be a lot of fun. In the spirit of that, also, we're trying to expand, YouTube content based on what our patrons and listeners have told us.
Mhm.
So we actually, to kind of kick things off right now, there's already an unboxing video of Pokemon TCG's Prismatic Evolution set.
Mhm.
Pokemon Company is nice enough to send over a bunch of stuff. We opened some. We shared like TCG live codes on there because I
Mhm.
don't use them. This is going to be like a week late now, so I assume someone has probably nabbed them by then, but maybe not. Try
Maybe
your luck.
not.
You
We don't
never
know.
know.
Uh,
Um, but
but we're gonna
but there
try.
is. Go ahead.
No, we're gonna try to do some live ones and premiere ones like that over time as we get the schedule worked out. But yeah, so it was a lot of fun doing it. We want to know if you claim the codes on there, maybe leave a comment. Just let people know. But also, you're welcome. I say for Austin.
Yeah. But anyway, thank you guys for listening. to this week's episode and being a nice little supporter of the podcast.
Yep.
Remember, if you would like to support this podcast more, you can head over to Patreon. We're at patreon.com/DragonQuestFM. And like BJ mentioned, we're at Blue Sky at DragonQuest.fm and Twitter at DragonQuestFM. If you want to talk to me personally, you can find me on Blue Sky pretty much at Dragon Quaston, and it's a bunch of other little dots because I don't have a domain just for my own name. But you'll find me. It's fine.
That's true. You'll find him. And I'm on Blue Sky pretty much primarily now at bjkgames.com. So you'll be able to find me on there. That's basically the only place I am nowadays. So thank you guys for listening. Let us know about your butt merchant town. And if just holler at us, we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.